Hello and welcome to this Wilhelm Steinitz video. So this video is entitled, Who was the first official world chess champion? Well, it was Wilhelm Steinitz. So you can see his picture here. He lived from 1836 to 1900, and something interesting about the age he was when he died at 64, and there are 64 squares on the chessboard. And Bobby Fischer, also a very famous world champion, of course, Bobby Fischer also died at 64. So interesting little coincidence there. So this first world chess champion, the first official world chess champion, Wilhelm Steinitz, he apparently was born in Prague. So he's from Europe. Later in life, he moved to the United States. And I believe he had mental health issues and died broke, I think in New York. But I'm not going to dig into that here because I'm going to go through an early game of Steinitz. And if you enjoy this video, I'll have more Wilhelm Steinitz videos in the future. And I've already started this with Bobby Fischer, Mikhail Tal, and Jose Capablanca. And eventually I'd like to do a series of games by other famous players as well. But I thought, no list is complete without the first official world chess champion. And Wilhelm Steinitz was also famous for basically getting players to play in a more modern way. So in the 1800s and earlier, chess was kind of a swashbuckling, attacking game. People would attack at all costs, even if that wasn't the best move or the best strategy. And Wilhelm Steinitz basically helped change chess to, make it closer to what it is today with a lot more strategy. But he also was kind of guilty of attacking play when he was younger. So I'm going to go through this game here with Wilhelm Steinitz versus Philip Meitner. Now, of course, this is Steinitz, and he's the first world chess champion. So sorry to give it away that he wins here. But it should be very interesting to see how he does this. And you can learn a lot by reviewing games like this of the most famous chess players. So this was played in 1860. And if we do the accuracy percentage rating here, we'll see that Steinitz played an even game in the first half or first third, and then he gained an advantage before getting an even bigger advantage into the end. And he played 93.4% accuracy versus 77 by his opponent. He did have a brilliant move and two great moves. As far as the bad moves, he had one missed opportunity. His opponent had two mistakes and a blunder. So let's take a look at this. I'll turn on the computer to help us evaluate and see what the computer points out as well. So, Wilhelm Steinitz begins with e4. And as I mentioned, when he was younger, he played more attacking chess, which was, common. That was how chess was played back in the middle 1800s and earlier. But later in his career, he became more of a strategic player, especially when he became the world champion in I believe it was 1886. Let me know if I'm wrong, but I think he was world champion from 1886. And then, let's see, Lasker defeated him and became the world champion. And Lasker, who I'll also do a series on him in the future, he was world champion for 27 years, I believe. Let's see, he became champion in 1894, I guess. So from 1886 to 1894, Wilhelm Steinitz was champion. All right, on with this game here. So we have e4, e5. Common opening here where they both take a share of the center, keep things even. The knight adds pressure to this unprotected pawn, so the opponent defends that. And now we have d4, a nice straightforward opening. Beginners may want to try this, the Scotch game, where you just press the other pawn forward, placing both pawns on great squares. Usually black will capture, and then you can either capture with the knight. You have other options, but let's see how the game continues. We have capture, and now the Scotch gambit. So Steinitz is, letting this pawn be captured, not immediately recapturing, and he decides instead to develop. He develops his bishop, lining up on this weak f pawn that's only protected by the king, and he's ready to castle here immediately and get his king to safety. So now, because Steinitz pushed that bishop out, his opponent plays bishop to c5, defending here. So let's see what Steinitz does. He continues with his strategy, getting his king safe. Now he has a rook closer to the center that can get in on the action here. And Philip Meitner, this chess master, decides to push his knight forward. He's attacking the pawn, but more importantly, he's ready to castle here. So attack on the knight. What should Steinitz's opponent do here? Well, let's take a look. He decides, and the computer says the best thing to do is to press the d pawn forward and counterattack the bishop here. And that is what he does. So he finds the best move according to the computer. And now Steinitz ignores the attack on the bishop, counterattacks over here, taking the knight, also eyeing this pawn as well. So after recapture, now we have a check on the king. That is blocked by the bishop, and the knight piles up on that bishop. So the threat is to capture. If the pawn recaptures, the rook can capture with a check. And we also have this pawn here. So what will Steinitz's opponent do? It looks like g6 is actually the best move according to the computer, and that keeps the game about even. Queen to d5, the second most played move. So that is chosen by Steinitz's opponent, centralizing the queen, which is usually a good idea. So now we have, and it also helps protect that bishop in case there's an exchange here. Capture of the bishop, capture by the pawn, and now the rook won't be able to capture that pawn with check. But now we have an attack on the queen, but that allows this to be captured. So instead of that, queen sidesteps. Now, would that have been best to capture that pawn? Let's see here. Apparently queen to f5 is best. So we could take a look and see what would happen if this were to be captured. Well, then it looks like it's losing here immediately after capture. Of course, that's losing because the bishop cannot recapture. It's pinned by the rook here. So back to what happened in the game. The queen gets out of the line of fire of that knight. And now we have an attack on the queen with pawn to g4, kind of opening up the king side a little bit. And now it says black has the edge here. So what would have been better here? And apparently that's a book move to give up that pawn, which would open up the g file for maybe an attack on the king if the king castles over here. So apparently knight at c, Up to e4, backing up the knight. That would have been a better move, or the best move. But g4 is the second best move, and it is a book move. So attack here on the queen, forcing that queen to respond. So apparently, it would not be good to capture that pawn. We have this, which is a blunder here. So huge blunder. First of all, let's see what should have been played. It looks like the best move and only move to keep black in the lead here is queen to g6. And then that gives white time to move this knight up here. And then after that, it's also attacking that bishop. So they would recommend to just slide that bishop back to here. Okay, before we take a look at that blunder move and play it out further, what would happen if instead let's see. So that was the move. What would happen if they would capture here? Or capture here. So there are different ways to go. You capture here. Apparently that's a blunder because of capture. And then the best thing to do, and of course, once again, you can't recapture because of this bishop, and it would be good just to castle here, but white would be winning. So back to what happened in the game, we had g4. The other option is to take on f6, and then the knight could just jump up to d5, apparently. And it's because, once again, that bishop is really in trouble here, just pinned to the king. So in the game, we have a blunder. And this allows the knight to attack the queen and threaten this fork here. So what can be done? Maybe the queen has to drop back. And of course, that's what they do. That's the best move in the position. White is ahead, but not quite winning here. So now we have rook, sacrificing the rook for the exchange of this bishop here. Apparently that's the best move. Does Steinitz find it? Yes, he does find it. Computer awards this a brilliant move. And then of course after capture, we have knight captures. So what's the threat here? Well, you're piling up here with both knights. And of course the queen cannot capture this knight because knight on e6 captures, forking the king and the queen. So the best move is queen to d7. And that is what is played. So now, black is just in trouble here. So we have a missed opportunity, queen to e2. Apparently it would have been better to just immediately go ahead and capture here, forking the king and the rook here. So let's take a look at that. The best move apparently is that. And then after king to d8, now it's saying that's a missed opportunity. Oh, okay, because I moved the wrong one. I apologize for that. So let's get rid of that. Delete. Knight at d, sorry. This knight has to capture. So that would have been best. King would probably go here. I don't know, that's the best move according to the computer. So after this, we have a check on the king. King up to g8. Then you could go ahead and pick off this rook, and then h6 attacks, chasing that away. So let's go back to what happened in the game. So we were at this position earlier. Queen was under attack. A blunder was played. That allows this A great move here, attacking the queen because the rook is pinning the bishop to the king. So the queen drops back to prevent a fork here of the king and the rook. We have this brilliant move, giving up the rook after the capture. The other knight jumps into the action, attacking the queen. So the queen presses forward, and now Steinitz lines his queen up with a discovered attack possibility, capturing here with check and going after the queen. So the best move apparently was not played. Bishop to e7, and now it's just a game-losing mistake. So it looks like king to f7 would have kept Steinitz's opponent in the game, but it's hard to, when you're under such an attack like this, it's hard to defend sometimes. Even good players can crumble under a strong attack. So here, if that's played, then you have the knight to g5 move, king to g8. We kind of saw that earlier. So, well, how would it continue here? Apparently, that can still be played. And why shouldn't that be captured? And it said that would be a brilliant move. And Steinitz, he probably saw all this, or at least most of it. So d3 attacking. But what would happen if you capture here? Well, that would allow queen, and the only move that keeps an advantage here is that. Attacking, king would be forced to f8, and then you have the fork. The knight could jump in here, forking the king and the queen. So just a lot going on here. Back to what happened in the game. So we have this mistake being played, and now the best move is to capture and fork the king and the rook here. So Steinitz does that. King runs. Queen lines up on the king. So this is usually a good strategy, and the most recent World Chess Championship between Ding Liren and Gukesh Damaraju, we saw this a lot in that World Chess Championship, where both players would line up less valuable pieces on more valuable ones, even with pieces in between. So here the queen lines up on the king. And so the knight jumps forward. The best move is found, attacking the queen, possibly threatening a check here, but is there a good follow-up? So the game continues with the queen keeping this lineup, this attack aimed at the king. So Meitner, he presses his queen forward here. The best move in the position. Steinitz continues by attacking the knight here. So the game continues with a counterattack, grabbing a pawn, but apparently queen to b6 would have been better to attack, move here, and the queens would just attack one another. But man, it looks dangerous with this queen just lined up here with a possible discovery if this knight moves. So now we have knight delivering a check on g5, a double discovered attack as the queen and the knight are both firing up here towards the king. So the king has to run. He steps forward, and now another check. So that king is just running into trouble here. Queen checks again, and as the king runs to the only square available, now we have a piece being captured by Steinitz. So Steinitz is ahead at the moment. Now, apparently, it would have been better to just go ahead and capture here. So let's take a look at that. Capture. queen would capture. The king would have to run to the only square available. And then another check. Queen blocks. Steinitz would be ahead in material here, and he's threatening to capture this as well. So, I guess he could just go ahead, take the queen, exchange them off, and then knock out the rook. But in the game, we had this. Queen to b6, a blunder. And let's see if Steinitz is able to take advantage of it. Well, the knight drops back here, protecting the other knight. Discovered attack on the king. And we have a mate in 2 here. So, hopefully you can figure that out. Take a look at it. See if you can find the mate in 2. And there are different ways you can go about it. So, here we go. The king is running. And now we have check. King runs to the only square available. And checkmate. So, pretty crazy game there by Steinitz, where he just got a powerful attack against his opponent, chasing that king all over the board, and his opponent just crumbled under the pressure. Okay. Well, I hope you enjoyed this game of Wilhelm Steinitz, and stay tuned in the future. I'll have more videos featuring Wilhelm Steinitz, and especially, I'll do a few videos with these early games in his career where he attacked more, and he opened with e4, a more attacking pawn move in the beginning. But I'm looking forward to checking out some of his games from later in his career, especially up around the 1880s and when he became world champion. So we have a lot more Steinitz games to look forward to in the future. Okay, feel free to leave any comments. I enjoy hearing from viewers and subscribers. Whatever's on your mind, leave a comment. Please like and subscribe to support the channel if you haven't already. Thank you for watching, and have a super chess day.